the 11th of October 2021. A man who was pinned to ground as a terrorist at LaGuardia was held after fellow flyer mistook his vintage camera for a bomb. The bomb scare that caused an emergency landing at LaGuardia Airport in Queens was triggered by a passenger adjusting their camera. The American Airlines Flight 4817, coming from Indianapolis, was forced to make an emergency landing at the Queens airport around 3 p.m. on Saturday. The incident led to the suspicious passenger being taken into custody for hours. The news reports that the bomber in question was in fact a vintage camera aficionado, with the woman reporting him ultimately making a mistake. The woman believed he was searching for bomb instructions, and when he retrieved a camera and began tinkering with it, she was convinced it was a bomb. The airplane's pilot radioed to traffic control that they needed to clear the runway to make way for an emergency landing due to a suspicious and erratic behavior from a passenger. The plane landed away from the airport building, and passengers were evacuated using the inflatable slides. When on the ground, the supposed bomber was forced to lay face down on the tarmac and was searched. The travelers' bags were also confiscated and searched. They were found to have a skateboard and other vintage cameras. All 78 passengers, alongside 4 crew members, were successfully evacuated from the plane. The news reports officials saying there were no injuries during the mishap. After several hours, and law enforcement officials discovering only vintage cameras and a skateboard in his bags, he was finally cleared by officials and released. The man's identity was not released by authorities. The JTTF, Joint Terrorism Task Force, the FBI and the Port Authority Police Department determined that there was no criminality on the part of the passenger and he was released, said Port Authority spokesman Tom Tapasis. The incident was initially treated as an security incident after the woman reported what she believed to be erratic behavior in the form of a camera adjustments, according to the Federal Aviation Administration and Port Authority Police.
But we begin with a major scare at LaGuardia Airport, a flight evacuated due to a disruptive passenger. This video showing people sliding off that plane. I'm Dan Bowens. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, that passenger has since been taken into custody, and the airport tweeted it is operating normally at this hour, but the situation left those involved feeling pretty shaken up. Fox 5's Jessica Formoso at LaGuardia with the very latest.
Dan, there are 2 words that no passenger wants to hear, and they are evacuate immediately. Well, 76 passengers on an American Airlines flight heard those 2 words, and you can only imagine it was chaos here at the airport, and it ended with 1 man in handcuffs.
Everyone this way, this way.
A 2-hour flight from Indianapolis to LaGuardia Airport ended with passengers evacuating through the plane's emergency slides.
It was kind of chaotic.
Authorities say it was just a little after 3 p.m. when American Airlines Flight 4817 made an emergency landing at LaGuardia Airport after a passenger reported suspicious and erratic behavior from another passenger aboard the flight.
Some female yelled, "Please don't," no. We were landing when the argument was taking place.
Michael David was sitting just 3 rows behind.
I just came in pretty fast landing, and then all of a sudden when the wheels hit the ground, the pilot just hit the brakes, and we just came to an abrupt stop, and pilot told us to start running from the plane.
This was like emergency brake, like slammed on, like I never experienced before. And then immediately the stewardess said, "Evacuation."
By the time the plane landed, the tarmac was filled with police and first responders. Within seconds, these 2 firefighters tackled the suspect to the ground.
Apparently he threatened that he had some sort of device.
Governor Hochul tweeting tonight that they are monitoring the situation and that there is no reason to believe there is any danger to New Yorkers at this time.
The fact that you're sliding down these slides and we're not moving around, super scary. So, and the fact we saw an arrest made, 2 feet from us as soon as we landed was also pretty alarming.
The suspect was taken into custody. We don't know much about him since his identity has not been released to us. Meanwhile, no injuries were reported. At LaGuardia Airport, I'm Jessica Formoso, Fox 5 News.